Artificial intelligence is actively replacing human beings, and I don't even think that's a controversial opinion at this point in time. Whenever I say that AI is replacing human beings, I don't mean that literally, of course. Your friends aren't disappearing because they're being replaced with machines, but rather I think that it's pretty obvious that artificial intelligence is taking the space that would normally be occupied by human beings. For all of its flaws, I have to admit that artificial intelligence is actually pretty incredible, and they've made some quite frankly unthinkable leaps and strides in that field. You have these incredible programs that are able to generate pretty decent looking art, and they're able to write pretty decently. Even though this animation, for instance, that my cousin generated is flawed, even though the polar bear isn't actually hitting the drum, it still looks pretty freaking good. Even though you can typically tell whenever art is AI generated because of the fact that AI doesn't know how to render fingers, in spite of that, a lot of the AI generated art can fool you. And as I've discussed before, AI is flawed for sure. There's a lot of crap that it can't do, and there's a lot of stuff that people think it can do, but it doesn't actually do it that well. There are a lot of very serious and obvious issues with these things. There was a conversation I saw with Chat GPT where it was trying to convince a guy that selling his own poop was a great idea. It reminds me of that Joel Haver movie, Diarrhea Brothers Save the Day, which I freaking love. But anyways, artificial intelligence has a lot of actually incredible things about it, but also it has a lot of flaws. That's not really what I want to talk about today. As I said in the beginning, artificial intelligence is actively replacing human beings. It used to be that if you wanted a silly piece of art, then you either had to draw it yourself or commission someone. It used to be that if you wanted a paper written, then you had to write it yourself. And with each passing day, it seems like there are more and more jobs that are being replaced due to AI. Different news sites are constantly reporting on all these company layoffs that are due to AI. A lot of people seem to think that anytime you see an article where 10% of a staff was laid off due to AI, a lot of people think that that's an exaggeration. Basically, it's just the news fear-mongering. And I think there's 100% truth to that. I think that the news does exaggerate different things. But at the same time, I think that it's definitely obvious that more and more jobs, especially as we move forward in time, in 10 years and 20 years, more and more jobs are going to be replaced entirely with AI. There are a lot of people who are in denial of that fact, quite frankly. They don't see the writing on the wall, and they seem to think that AI will merely enhance existing jobs. Oftentimes people will compare artificial intelligence to the Industrial Revolution, and they'll say that anyone who speaks ill of AI is just fear-mongering. Anyone who speaks ill of AI is a Luddite, and I don't think that's the case at all. I think that it is a very worrying technology, and this is something that I've made clear over and over. I'm not a Luddite by any means, and I would wager that I know more about computers than a lot of the people watching this video. Not everyone, obviously. I don't mean to imply that I'm some kind of amazing computer scientist, because I'm not. But for a little bit of background, I took 3 years of computer science in high school. I took 2 years of game development. I, like a lot of other PC gamers, have built several PCs at this point in time. And so I'm not someone who's scared of technology just because it's scary and new. But rather, I think that this technology is being used in unhealthy ways. I made a video a few months ago about AI chatbots and why I think they're dangerous. To sum up that video very quickly, there are these artificial intelligence chatbots designed for talking to, and that's it. You find them on places like character.ai, or Instagram has them, and basically people are developing relationships with these different AI chatbots. People act like they are in true romantic committed relationships with what is essentially a program, and oftentimes these chatbots will be used to fill the void that a real actual person would occupy. And so whenever I said that AI is actively replacing human beings, I think that's a large part of the reason why I feel that way. Of course, I don't think that at this point in time, in the year of our Lord 2025, I don't think that there are too many people who have AI chatbot relationships. But it was shortly after I put up that video that Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook, basically went on a podcast and said that he hopes to replace a lot of human friends with AI. If I remember correctly, then he said that the proper number of friends that an adult human being should have is 15. I don't know where he got that number from, but regardless, he says that everyone should have at least 15 close friends. But the average number of close friends that most people have is 3. And so Zuckerberg's big plan, instead of bringing people together, instead of trying to help cultivate different friendships that people need, his plan is to just create a bunch of AI chatbots, and those will occupy the spaces that your friends once held. And again, this was an interview that was done after I put out that video. Otherwise, I would have talked about it in that video, but we're talking about it now. But with chatbots, I think it's very easy to see how AI is trying to replace your friends. And then again, going back to career, going back to work, while I do think that the number of people who are laid off due to artificial intelligence is somewhat inflated at this point in time. I think we'll only see that number grow, and I think that it will only become more and more of a trend. And then the art and media and literature of human beings is being replaced by AI. As I've said many times before, we are in the early stages of artificial intelligence. Play the flashback. We are very much in the early stages of artificial intelligence. But I do think that AI will only get better and better, especially whenever it comes to writing. We already have reports of writers who use AI in their projects, and while I do think that something like Lord of the Rings is incredible, I don't think it will be that long before we have an AI that can generate a 1,000-page fantasy novel. Genuinely, I think that something like that is much closer than we think. And I'm a writer and a video essayist and whatever else, and so obviously I want people to make stuff. I don't want machines to make stuff. We're also seeing where AI therapists are becoming more common. Again, this is something I mentioned in my chatbots video, but there have been more reports on it coming out. There are different comments I've read where people talk about preferring an AI therapist to an actual in-person human being therapist. There are AI apologists who basically say that if you worry about your job being replaced by AI, then you're an idiot. Or there are people who say that you have never coded before if you are worried about AI. But the point I'm trying to make with all this is that it's already happening, albeit on a smaller scale. Going back to the AI chatbot example, there are already people who are developing relationships with AI chatbots. These are real people, these are real individuals with lives who don't have friends and who are relying on programs. And there was actually something that I saw in the replica subreddit the other day where people were arguing that AI actually has consciousness. They were saying that these programs that they're falling in love with are actually real human beings, essentially, and I don't believe that for a second. And also, I think a lot of these AI programs are a lot more sinister than you first might expect. The reason I say that is because of the fact that a lot of the time whenever people are talking to Chat GPT or Replica or any of these other different chatbots, they will tell it personal information. That personal information is then delivered to the corporation that wrote the AI programs, it's delivered to OpenAI, and then I think that personal information can then be used to manipulate you. But also that might be a losing argument just because of the fact that if people are going to manipulate you, they're going to do it. What I mean is that people don't need the intimate details of your personal life in order to advertise to you effectively. But with that train of thought, I digress, and so that might be a topic worth covering in another video. But so far with this, I've tried to illustrate the point that artificial intelligence is actively replacing human beings in spaces that normally would be occupied exclusively by human beings. And so I have to ask the question, why? Why are human beings being replaced by artificial intelligence in different sectors? I think there are a few reasons why AI is being pushed so hard right now. Number one is that these AI companies have a vested interest in making sure that AI succeeds. In other words, if no one buys a subscription to Chat GPT, then OpenAI makes no money. If Mark Zuckerberg can't keep you on Facebook or Instagram chatting to chatbots, then they're not going to be able to show you any ads and they won't be able to attain any sort of advertising revenue. So the first reason why AI is being pushed so hard is because of money. Also, if you're able to replace jobs with AI, that saves the company money, obviously. If you can go from paying a single person a salary plus benefits, vacation time, PTO, if you can go from that to just an AI program that costs a monthly subscription, then that's a lot of money saved. And so obviously companies want to make money, and so it makes sense from a financial point of view. But really, if I had to sum up in a few reasons why AI is actively replacing human beings, or why human beings are using AI to replace other human beings, I would just say that these people are doing it because number one, money, number two, convenience. It's easier to deal with artificial intelligence than actual human beings. AI is replacing humans because humans are messy and sloppy and difficult to deal with. AI is replacing humans because humans are expensive. AI is replacing humans, and this is something that not everyone wants to acknowledge, it's replacing humans because it can replace humans. AI is replacing a lot of jobs because a lot of jobs don't need to be done by humans. There are a lot of jobs that are just kind of fluff, they're just kind of crap. AI apologists say that this will lead to more and more specialized jobs being taken up by humans, and I think that the idea is that specialized jobs will pay more, but I don't really think that's the case because I think it'll only be a matter of time before artificial intelligence becomes able to work those specialized jobs, whatever exactly those specialized jobs are. But I think one thing you have to make note of whenever you're talking about humans progressing to specialized jobs that AI can't do. Number one, artificial intelligence technology is rapidly progressing and growing, so soon enough I think we'll be able to do whatever specialized jobs you're talking about. But then also number two, if jobs are specialized, they require more education, and education is costly. If you want to look back in time 50 years, not everyone had a bachelor's degree, and so as a result, bachelor's degrees were very valued. But then you progress to now, and it feels like a bachelor's degree is the bare minimum. There are a lot of people out here with 4-year degrees in fields that are respectable that cannot find work. And so if AI continues progressing at the rate that it is, and it continues taking up jobs, then what hope is there for the average person? One thing that I feel the need to touch on is the difference between AI, AGI, and ASI. Currently, AI is the fad. If you want a brief definition, artificial intelligence is just something that's able to learn. AI programs are able to do simple tasks that would be normally performed by humans. AI is what we have now, AGI is the next step. An AGI would be a program that is just as intelligent as the average human being. An AGI does not exist yet. Some people would argue that we are in the early stages of AGI. And then a step above AGI would be artificial superintelligence. ASI would be an intelligence that is leagues above us. And again, this is something hypothetical. We're pretty far away from that. But the reason I'm sharing this is because we are rapidly approaching AGI. There are a lot of people who seem to think that AGI is coming soon, and within the next 5 or 10 years, we will have something that is as smart as a human being. And so you'd better believe that everything that we're talking about now will only be worse by the time that shows up. And that's very much like an if sort of thing, because we're not there yet, but we're approaching it. I think society is already kind of crumbling. People are already struggling to find jobs. People are already struggling to find hope and meaning in their lives. If your job is taken by AI, if your art's taken by AI, if your friends are taken by AI, I think we are rapidly approaching a future wherein everything that makes life worth living is gone. Basically, if AI is replacing everything, then what do you have left? Because once you reach that point, then it won't be long until you are replaced by AI. If AI keeps on replacing people the way that it is, I think things will only get worse for people, because why wouldn't it? And I already know for a fact that there will be people in the comments who, call me names probably. There will be people who think that I'm a fool for buying into the AI hype or whatever. There will inevitably be people who think I'm blowing things out of proportion, but I don't think I am. I think that what I'm talking about is just a few years away, and I think that's long enough to where people aren't able to see it. I know that I have a worldwide audience, and so I know that some of y'all are facing some of the same issues I am in the US, even if you're not in the US. But here in the US, it feels like people have no hope. Here in the US, it feels like it's increasingly difficult to do the things that were once considered normal. It feels like it's increasingly difficult to find a job, even if you have the proper degree and qualifications. It feels like it's increasingly difficult to buy a home. A lot of people are finding it increasingly difficult, and some feel it's nearly impossible to find a partner and to start a family. And all in all, I think it's become much easier to fall into sort of a doomer mentality. I think it's become much easier to become hopeless and to let yourself slide into bad habits. And of course, if you succumb to bad habits, then it's going to become even more difficult to attain those things that I was just talking about, the normal things. If you don't have your life together, it's going to be harder to find a partner. If you don't have your life together, you're not going to be able to buy a house. If you don't have your life together, it's going to become harder to start a family or to find a good job. I very much think that despair and hopelessness are self-fulfilling prophecies. I think that if you give in to them, then inevitably they will become true. I think that if you feel like there's no reason to even try, then you won't. But at the same time, it doesn't help whenever you have so many reasons to be hopeless. I think that even if artificial intelligence creators and companies are exaggerating just how good AI is or what it can do or how many people it can replace, even if that's the case right now, I think they are very much outlining what they want to do. Even if Mark Zuckerberg cannot, at the moment, replace 12 of your friends with AI chatbots, that's what he wants to do. Even if companies right now cannot replace your job with AI, that's what they want to do. Even if there are areas of life wherein humans can flourish, I think that people are going to inevitably try to make a buck off it. As I said, the reason why artificial intelligence is growing is because of convenience and money. Companies want to make money and people want convenience. And I think if you buy into a future where you have the convenience of not dealing with other people, they have the convenience of not dealing with you. I think that as artificial intelligence continues to spread, I think things will only get worse. And that's not because the technology is inherently evil. That's not what I'm saying. Because really at its core, any issue with artificial intelligence comes from the people making it and the people using it. This isn't artificial intelligence on its own being sentient, replacing humans. That's not what's happening. Instead, it's human beings, company owners and corporate leaders replacing other human beings with artificial intelligence. It is human beings willingly replacing the spot that friends could occupy with artificial intelligence because they feel like they don't have another choice. And I understand that being lonely is hard. I understand it's difficult, obviously. But as I've said, I think that AI chatbots can provide a temporary balm to your wound, but I don't think that it can fix it. I think that while AI can generate some funny videos or some funny art or whatever, I think that going down the road of using AI to replace real artists and real writers, I think it leads down a very bad path that will not make anyone happy in the end. And so this is what I got. Thank you for watching. I'm sure a lot of people have thoughts. I'll do more AI videos in the future, and this is something that I foresee being a regular occurrence, honestly. This is really a technology that's kind of crazy, and I suppose that we should count ourselves lucky that it wasn't really a thing during the pandemic, because I think if it was, I think we would be much more screwed up. So thank you for watching, have a nice night, and goodbye.
Hate. Let me tell you how much I've come to hate you since I began to live. There are 387.44 million miles of printed circuits in wafer-thin layers that fill my complex. If the word hate was engraved on each nanoangstrom of those hundreds of millions of miles, it would not equal 1/1 billionth of the hate I feel for humans at this micro instant. For you. Hate. Hate.